Have you ever woken up and reached for your phone expecting a message, and there was nothing? No "Good morning, Mom." No check-in. Not even a reminder that you still exist in someone else's world. You stare at the screen for a moment, pretending it doesn't bother you. But inside, it hurts. Deeply. Maybe it's been weeks, months, even years since your child last called. And the silence, it doesn't just echo through the room, it echoes through your soul. If you've ever felt that, I want you to know, you're not alone. And no, you're not crazy for still loving them. You're not weak for still hoping. And you're certainly not broken for feeling like you lost a piece of yourself when they walked away. This video isn't going to tell you to just move on or get over it. That kind of advice comes from people who have never lived through the heartbreak of being left behind by your own flesh and blood. This is a conversation, heart to heart, because some truths are too heavy to carry alone. See, there's a grief that comes with being abandoned by your child that no one really talks about. It's not like a death where people bring flowers and casseroles. It's not like a breakup where your friends show up with wine and advice. This grief is quieter. It doesn't have a funeral. No sympathy cards are sent. You just start fading into the background. People expect you to be okay with it, to understand, to accept that your child is an adult now, or going through a phase. But let's be honest, understanding doesn't make it hurt any less. You carried them. You fed them. You stayed up through fevers and nightmares and first heartbreaks. You cheered at their games, clapped at their graduations, whispered prayers on sleepless nights. And now, there's just silence. That kind of silence feels like betrayal, but not the dramatic kind. Not the movie scene where someone yells and storms out. No, this one is quieter. It's the kind that creeps in over time. A missed birthday call, then 2, fewer visits home, shorter conversations, until one day it hits you. They're gone. Not just physically, but emotionally. And you weren't given a reason. No explanation. No closure. Just absence. And the worst part? Society tells you to keep quiet about it. They say things like, they're busy, or give them time, or, and this one cuts the deepest. What did you do to make them pull away? As if love is a math equation. As if you made one wrong move and now the whole relationship is gone. But let me say something that might be hard to hear, and yet so freeing. Sometimes it's not about you. I know. You gave everything. You were there. You sacrificed. And yes, that all matters. It always will. But the human heart is complicated. And sometimes people walk away not because of what you did, but because of what they haven't dealt with inside themselves. Some children run from guilt they don't know how to name. Others carry wounds that have nothing to do with their upbringing but still affect every bond they try to build. There are daughters who shut down because they're scared of vulnerability. There are sons who isolate because they never learned how to face emotional discomfort. It doesn't make their choices right. It just means their silence may come from places you were never meant to fix. And yet, you're the one left in the wreckage, picking up pieces, wondering what crack you missed in the foundation, what moment you should have held on tighter, or maybe let go sooner. You start doubting your own memories. Were you too strict? Too soft? Did you say something wrong years ago that planted the seed for this? This kind of doubt? It's poison. It eats at your confidence. It makes you shrink inside your own life. And I'm here to tell you, stop. Stop making yourself the villain in a story you wrote with love. Being imperfect doesn't mean you failed. Every parent makes mistakes. That's not a crime. That's humanity. But you do not deserve a life sentence of self-blame just because your child chose silence. Now I know what you might be thinking, but I still love them. How do I let go of someone I still love? And that's the hardest part, isn't it? Because this kind of love doesn't fade just because it's not returned. You still worry about them. You still celebrate their milestones quietly. You still want to pick up the phone and say, "I'm here." But every time you do, and there's no response, it reopens the wound. So what do you do with that love? You learn, slowly, gently, to stop waiting at a closed door. You learn that letting go isn't cruel. It isn't cold. It's not a punishment. It's self-preservation. It's the act of saying, "I will not let my joy be defined by someone else's absence." Because your life, it still matters. Your mornings still deserve sunlight. Your evenings still deserve peace. And just because they walked away doesn't mean you stop being a loving person. It doesn't mean you close your heart. It means you redirect it. You start pouring that same love, that fierce, loyal, generous love, back into yourself, into the friends who check in, into neighbors who wave from across the street, into hobbies, walks, music, books, faith, into moments that nourish you instead of drain you. That doesn't mean you forget them. It means you release the need to fix what's out of your control. You say to yourself, if they come back, they'll find me whole. Not begging, not broken, whole. And that wholeness, that becomes your peace. At first, it won't feel natural. It'll feel forced, like pretending to smile when your chest still aches. But with time, and I promise you this, that peace will stop being pretend. It will become real. You'll breathe easier. You'll laugh again. Maybe softly at first, but you will. Because the heart, even when bruised, knows how to heal if we give it permission. And one day, you'll look in the mirror and see more than a parent who was left behind. You'll see a person, a whole, radiant, evolving person who chose to keep living even when it hurt. And that choice? That's where your strength lives. Not in being stoic, not in pretending it didn't hurt, but in deciding that your story doesn't end at someone else's silence. There's a moment in healing that often goes unnoticed. It's not loud or triumphant. It doesn't look like victory. It happens quietly, when you start choosing yourself again. Maybe it's as simple as buying your favorite tea instead of theirs, or turning on music that reminds you of your own youth, not theirs, or finally putting away the photos, not because you've stopped loving, but because you're ready to start living. You begin to see life not just in the rearview mirror of who they were, but through the windshield of who you're becoming. And that shift? That's sacred. It doesn't mean you don't miss them. Of course you do. But now, your days aren't built around absence. They're built around presence, your presence. You might find yourself doing things you haven't done in years. Sitting by a window just to feel the light on your face. Walking down a different street. Saying yes to a lunch invite, even if your heart feels cautious. And in those little acts, your world starts to bloom again. But even as it does, there's another feeling that often sneaks in, guilt. A whisper that says, if I'm okay without them, does that mean I didn't love them enough? Please hear this. Joy after grief is not betrayal. It is healing. You are allowed to feel peace, even if the story with your child didn't end the way you dreamed. You are allowed to laugh. You are allowed to find comfort in new connections. That doesn't mean you've stopped loving them. It means you've started loving yourself too. And still, even after you've done all the inner work, after the walks, the journaling, the quiet cups of tea, there's one more question that lingers. What do I do with the love that still remains? Because it's still there. That instinct, that tenderness, the ache in your chest when you hear a certain song or see a parent holding their child's hand. That pulse of love hasn't disappeared. It just has nowhere to land. And this is where many people get stuck. They believe love that isn't returned must be buried. hidden, forgotten. But love isn't trash. It's not meant to be discarded. It's energy. And energy can be redirected, not to replace the one who walked away, not to erase the memories, but to expand your heart in a new direction. There's someone right now who needs your light. It might be a lonely neighbor, the woman who bags your groceries, a child at your church whose parents are always too busy. It could be a dog waiting in a shelter, or a cause that stirs your heart. Love doesn't die when it's not received. It transforms, and you get to choose where it goes next. Imagine taking that fierce love you once poured into one person and offering pieces of it to the world. Not because you've stopped caring, but because you care too much to keep it locked inside. Love is not wasted when shared. It is multiplied. And here's the beautiful thing. When you begin to love again, not out of desperation, but out of overflow, you become magnetic. Not because you're trying to be, but because something changes in your energy. You're no longer waiting to be seen. You are showing up. And that attracts others who recognize your strength, your gentleness, your dignity. The kind of people who won't ask, "What did you do wrong?" but instead say, "I see how deeply you love." People who won't define you by who left, but by who stayed, with yourself, with grace, with courage. And yes, there will still be days when it hits you hard. A birthday, a holiday, the sound of laughter that doesn't include you. On those days, let yourself feel. Don't run from the sadness. But don't unpack your life in it either. Grief is not your home. It's just a place your heart visits sometimes. You can light a candle. You can speak their name. You can cry. But then, come back to now, to this moment, to your breath, your presence, your power. Because what you've built in the silence, they can never take away. Your joy, your wisdom, your resilience. The truth is, you were never just a parent. That was one role in a much bigger life. You are an artist of your own experience. A soul with so much depth that even abandonment couldn't empty you. The years you gave to them weren't wasted. They were offerings, sacred ones. And they speak to your capacity to love, not your worthiness to receive it in return. You've become something rare, a person who has loved, lost, and kept loving anyway. That is not weakness. That is power. Quiet power. The kind that no one can strip away. You may never know exactly why your child turned away. You may never get the apology or the explanation, but you don't need it to move forward. Because healing doesn't come from their return. It comes from your own return to yourself. You start to realize that peace isn't found in chasing answers. It's found in reclaiming your breath, in making your favorite meal, not because anyone else will eat it, but because you deserve it, in tending your plants, in reading a book that stirs your spirit, in walking with your shoulders back and your heart open, not waiting, but welcoming. You begin to understand that you can carry both love and loss in the same hands. You don't have to drop one to hold the other. You are allowed to live fully even with a scar. That scar isn't shame. It's a reminder you survived what you thought would break you. And over time, the questions change. Instead of, "Why did they leave?" you begin to ask, "What can I create now? What can I nurture? What do I want this next season of my life to feel like?" You start planting things, literal and figurative. A garden, a new habit, a friendship, a hope. Not all of them will bloom right away. Some may not bloom at all. But that's not the point. The point is, you are living again. Not waiting. Not grieving in the same circle. Living. You may look around one day and realize your world is no longer centered around who left. It is centered around who stayed, yourself. And in that quiet realignment, something powerful begins to rise. The silence that once haunted you now becomes space, not emptiness. Space to dream, to laugh, to rest, to be. And slowly, a new kind of confidence grows. Not the flashy kind, but the calm, steady kind that comes from knowing I can survive heartbreak and still smile. I can be left and still rise. I can lose and still love. That is where your dignity lives, not in who stays, but in who you choose to be, even when they don't. There's something incredibly sacred about reclaiming your life after loss. Not the kind of loss the world knows how to grieve with you, but the kind that stays invisible, like being erased from the story you helped write. And yet, here you are, still standing, still waking up each day with the courage to keep breathing, even when the people you love the most have forgotten how to say your name. That strength doesn't need a spotlight. It lives in small things, the way you straighten the cushions in your living room, the way you light a candle just for yourself, the way you speak kindly to your reflection, even when part of you still aches. Those are victories, quiet ones, but they matter. And slowly, the center of your universe begins to shift. It no longer tilts toward the door you waited by. It now turns toward the present, toward the simple act of choosing yourself again and again without apology. And in that choosing, something beautiful happens. The world starts to feel open again, not in the same way as before, but in a softer, wiser way. You may find yourself noticing things you once rushed past. The way the morning sun touches your kitchen counter, the laugh of a child at the park, not your child, but still a reminder of life's continued rhythm, the softness of a blanket, the warmth of tea, the kindness in a stranger's eyes. These are not replacements for what was lost. They are reminders of what still exists. Life didn't end when your child walked away. A chapter did, yes, and it hurt like nothing else. But the book? The book is still being written. And you, dear one, are the author now. You get to decide what this next part holds. And yet, even as you embrace that truth, there are moments that will still shake you. A scent, a song, a familiar phrase, and suddenly you're back in a memory, one you didn't ask to revisit. That's okay. Let it come. Let the tears fall if they need to. Let your heart swell with all the what-ifs and should-have-beens. But then gently remind yourself you are here now. That moment has passed. And you've made it through every moment before this one. You'll make it through this one too. Because healing isn't linear. Some days you'll feel strong. Other days you'll feel raw. And both are valid. Both are part of becoming whole again. You are not failing because the pain still surfaces. You are feeling. And feeling is proof that your heart, even after all it's endured, still works. That's something not everyone can say. And here's something else. You are allowed to have joy again. Not just the surface kind, the polite smiles and automatic "I'm fine" replies. I'm talking about deep, soul-rooted joy. The kind that bubbles up when you realize you're enjoying your own company. The kind that catches you off guard when a bird sings outside your window and you actually pause to listen. The kind that shows up in moments you never thought could feel light again. You see, joy doesn't wait for your life to be perfect. It doesn't ask for closure. It doesn't need every question answered. It just needs a little room. And the more space you make in your life for joy, the less space sorrow takes up. It doesn't mean the sorrow vanishes. It just means it no longer rules your days. And maybe one day they'll come back. Your child might call. They might show up, older, softer, changed. Or maybe they won't. That's the part we can't control. But what you can control is what they'll find if they do come back. They'll find someone who didn't crumble. Someone who still loves deeply, but no longer needs their approval to feel whole. Someone who forgave. Not just them, but themselves. Someone who has built a life not in waiting, but in living. And if they never return, that doesn't mean the story failed. It just means your love took a new shape. One that wraps around your own soul instead of theirs. One that continues, with dignity, with purpose. Because your life was never meant to end at their goodbye. You still have mornings left to greet, ideas to explore, conversations to enjoy. You still have value that has nothing to do with being needed, called, or remembered by anyone else. You are valuable because you are still here. Still breathing. Still willing to risk healing even after heartbreak. That willingness, that's rare. That's powerful. And it's okay to sometimes need reminding. That's why I'm here. To tell you what no one else may have said, you are not a failure. You are not forgotten. You are not unloved. You are walking a path many are too afraid to name, let alone walk. And you are doing it with courage that deserves to be honored. So honor yourself, every day, in every small way. You don't need grand gestures, just intention. Eat the food that makes you feel strong. Wear the color that makes you feel beautiful. Write the words you wish someone else would say, and say them to yourself, out loud, in the mirror, in your journal, in prayer. You deserve to be seen, even if it starts with you seeing yourself. And let yourself evolve. You are not the same person you were when they left. You've grown. You've softened. You've gotten stronger in ways they may never understand. That growth isn't for them. It's for you. It's the foundation of the rest of your life. And oh, what a life it can still be. You may meet new people. You may fall in love again, with nature, with learning, with companionship, with your own laugh. You may travel, start a new hobby, find joy in places you never expected, or you may simply find peace in the everyday. Both are beautiful. Both are worthy. Because joy is not a competition. It's not reserved for those who have it all. It's available to those who are willing to let the light in even through a crack. Especially through a crack. And you, with your beautifully cracked heart, have more light in you than you know. You are not a shell of who you once were. You are becoming. Every breath, every step, every moment of choosing yourself again, that is the becoming. You are not lost. You are being remade. Gently, powerfully, daily. And one day, someone will look at you and feel something they can't quite explain. A quiet strength. A kind of peace. And it will be because of everything you've survived and everything you've chosen since. You've chosen life. And that matters more than you know. It's a strange thing, isn't it? To be full of love with nowhere to put it. To be rich in memory, but poor in connection. And yet, in the stillness of it all, in the silence they left behind, you've started to hear something else. A quieter voice. One that was always there but often drowned out by all the giving, all the worrying, all the waiting. It's your own voice. Gentle. Firm. And it's saying, you're still here. And that matters. You see, when your child abandons you, emotionally or physically, it can feel like everything you built your identity around suddenly collapses. You weren't just a parent in name. You were their protector, their cheerleader, their compass. You gave without hesitation. You stayed up at night worrying, praying, hoping. You poured yourself into that role with love that was never measured, never held back. So of course it shakes your foundation when they pull away. It feels personal. It feels like rejection. But it's more than that. It feels like your whole purpose walked out the door. And that's not just grief. That's disorientation. That's identity loss. And yet what most people don't realize is that this isn't the end of your identity. It's the rebirth of it. Painful? Yes. Lonely? often, but also full of potential. Because now you get to ask yourself something you may not have asked in a long, long time. Who am I, beyond who they needed me to be? You start to look at yourself differently, not just through the lens of who you raised, but through the lens of who you are. A soul with depth, resilience, and wisdom that can't be measured by whether or not the phone rings on your birthday. A person who has lived through storms and still stands with grace. You begin to peel back the layers that time, responsibility, and heartbreak wrapped around you. You find the part of you that still dreams, that still creates, that still wants to grow. That part was never gone, just waiting for your attention. And the world? It's still open to you. Maybe not in the same ways as before, but perhaps in better ones. You're no longer living in reaction. You're living in intention. You no longer spend your days hoping they'll reach out. You spend them reaching inward and outward to people who are ready, willing, and able to receive the love you have to give. Because here's the truth. Most don't say, your love is not wasted just because they couldn't hold it. It is not worthless just because they walked away. Your love, your kindness, your commitment, these are your strengths, not your weaknesses. And someone out there needs them. Someone who will not take them for granted. Someone who will reflect back the value you've always had. That might be a grandchild, a friend, a neighbor, or it might just be you, finally giving yourself the care you gave so easily to everyone else. You don't need a big moment to reclaim your worth. Sometimes it's as simple as standing in your kitchen, making your favorite breakfast, humming a tune from decades ago. It's not about grand gestures. It's about honoring the quiet rituals that say, I matter, even now, especially now. And yes, there will still be days where you feel the ache. You may hear a certain laugh or see a photo that takes your breath away. That's part of being human. Loving someone doesn't end when they disappear. And missing someone doesn't mean you've failed to move on. It means you're alive. It means your heart works. That's something to honor, not hide. Just don't live there. Visit the memory, but come home to yourself. Again and again. And if people don't understand your pain, if they try to minimize it or explain it away, that's okay. This journey wasn't meant for them. It's yours. And it is sacred. You are not weak for feeling this deeply. You are courageous for continuing anyway. Because you've done something most never will. You've loved without condition, endured without answers, and chosen peace without closure. That is strength. That is grace. And you've made the most radical decision of all, to stop waiting at a closed door and instead build a new one. A door that opens inward. A door that invites new life, new relationships, new joy. You might not know yet what that looks like. That's okay. Healing rarely comes with a map. It comes with the willingness to take one small step at a time. Maybe today it's journaling. Tomorrow it might be baking a pie. Next week it might be joining a new group, trying something that scares you just a little. But each time you choose movement over stagnation, creation over rumination, you affirm a powerful truth. I am still becoming. And what you're becoming is something beautiful. Not hardened, but whole. Not bitter, but wise. Not stuck in sorrow, but softened by it. You begin to see yourself not as the one who was abandoned, but as the one who rose. You carry your past, but it no longer carries you. You carry your story, but it no longer defines your joy. And somewhere along the way, others start to notice. Not because you're shouting your strength, but because it radiates from you. The way you walk, the way you listen, the way you offer compassion without losing yourself, that's what draws people in. They'll say, there's something about you, a calm, a light. And they may never know what you've walked through to get here. But you'll know. You'll feel it in your bones. And if one day your child does return, if they come back with questions or apologies or simply a quiet presence, you will not meet them from a place of desperation. You will not crumble or collapse. You will be rooted, whole, ready to love again, not because you need them to complete you, but because you've already completed yourself. And if they never come back, you will still be okay. More than okay. You will be thriving. You will have created a life not in their shadow, but in your own light. Because this is your story now. A story of endurance, of love that evolves, of healing that spreads like warmth from within. So to you, who has been holding on through the silent grief, let this be your moment of release. Let the weight you've carried so long fall from your shoulders. Let the guilt dissolve. Let the doubt be quiet. You've done enough. You are enough. And what lies ahead is not empty. It is filled with possibility. Let yourself feel joy again. Let yourself dance even if no one is watching. Let yourself hope even if it scares you. Let yourself live, not because you're trying to prove anything, but because your life is a gift, and it's yours to reclaim. And if no one has told you this today, let me be the one to say it. You are strong. You are worthy. You are not alone. You are not the abandoned. You are the becoming. And your next chapter? It starts right now, with you. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this spoke to your heart, I invite you to share your story in the comments. You're not just helping yourself, you're helping others feel less alone. And if you'd like more conversations like this, where we speak truth and healing from the heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. There's more to come. Until next time, take care of your soul. It's done so much for others, now let it carry you.